Alright, so today we're working on the 80 again, and we had suspicions, as you all saw from episode 1, that there's something going on inside the motor. So Pablo pulled the lower part of the oil pan and we found some sediment or gunk buildup. He's under the weather, that's why you're seeing my face today. And I apologize, I'm not as pretty as Pablo. But between me and Alex, or Alex and I, we're gonna do some investigating.
Show them what's in the pan.
Here's what's in the pan.
Give your light.
What's in the pan?
Just a minute. We've got all this gunk in here. Not exactly sure what it is yet, but we're trying to figure it out. It's all up in the oil pickup as well. So the lower pan is off and we're working on the upper pan, and we're just going to see if we can get more data.
There. This is kind of what the strainer looks like. If I can get in there. Yeah. That looks pretty gnarly. Does
I have to build it all. And it's gonna be hard. I'm gonna have to be nice about it.
All right, guys, I am back. I was sick, so Alex and Joey took care of everything else before me on removing the oil pan and checking out the rod bearings. Turns out one of them was pitted real bad, so Michael and I are taking the engine out of the block, out of the truck. I'm tired, I'm still recovering. Anyways, so we're gonna get the starter off of it. We're gonna disconnect everything else. We gotta undo power lines, power steering lines, and then we can pull this out and we gotta unbolt the hood. The reason why we're taking the block out is because I'm gonna have to go ahead and replace the rear main seal anyways. And on top of that, we also wanna check all the bearings on the crank because we did find pitting on one. That means more than one are gonna have them. So, get back to it, Michael. Okay, so we got the hood off of it. And now we're gonna get ready to hook up some chain to the block. Transmission's disconnected. And we're gonna go ahead and grab our car jack to support the transmission. Once we separate the engine and the transmission as we're pulling it out, the transmission is gonna wanna fall. So we gotta figure out a way to keep the transmission upright as we're pulling the engine out. But yeah, so now it's just hooking up the chain and getting the engine hoist over here and we're ready to go. Well, this is interesting. Okay, so right here we have what a crank journal or crank bearing should look like. Nice smooth finish. And we go over here and you can see a very deep groove cut in the actual bearing. Now, this means that debris has actually gone through the oil pump and into the bearings. So I'm gonna take this off real quick. You can kind of see, I don't know if you can, I can't make it work, but this had a lot of debris in it. This is not the only one that I found debris in it. So all the oil passages and everything have been compromised. On this one, this is actually a rod bearing. Now, this silver finishing here is normal. I usually see these in a lot of the engines I finish, take it apart. But you can kind of it's hard to tell with this camera, and I don't know if you can. There's pitting in there where moisture has sat, and it's really, really bad pitting. And two things that cause it: moisture getting in the oil, or trash and debris going through the oil pump into the oil passages, getting to the crank, and then getting hammered into the bearings as it's going through its run cycle. So it needs new bearings. If I'm going to continue with this block, I would prefer that we tore it down to bare, had it vatted and cleaned, and then reassembled. So let's pull a piston out. Let's see how one of the pistons look like. Put you guys down right here. Okay. So the skirts look really good. You can see some of the scraping here. Not too bad. Bit of carbon, but overall they're in okay shape. Rings are not cracked. So we have a good basis as to what we want to do with it. So we'll get back to y'all on that. So I forgot to check my SD card and didn't have a way to unload any footage at the time, and so now I'm talking to you guys while we watch this glorious time lapse of me tearing apart the block. Now, as I tore this thing apart, I ended up finding that the oil cooler that I initially pointed out, I think was episode 1, the one that sits underneath the exhaust manifold, there's two circular gaskets that bolts the oil cooler to the block, and oil flows through it as coolant flows through the outside, and those two gaskets keep the oil and water separated. Well, turns out those gaskets weren't as good anymore, and that is where the coolant and oil was mixing. And somebody previous before me thought that the head gasket was going out, so they put block sealant inside the coolant system, and that is why we found that clay material inside the block. Okay. Now, the actual engine is sitting over at Automotive Machine and Supply. Those guys are being super awesome and taking care of us. They did an initial inspection of the block itself, and they found that the cylinder walls, at least one of them, had damage to them, so we're gonna have to bore it 20 over, and which is good because we were getting ready to order a head gasket. So to save me some time, because I have so many projects in the shop right now, we're gonna go ahead and let them build the bottom end for us and basically make the long block. Now the long block is the bottom end, the rotating assembly assembled, and the cylinder head bolted onto the block. Once I get that engine back in about 2 weeks from the release of this video, I will release another video update on it, and then kind of catch you guys up to what's going on and how the work of the machine shop went. But Pablo, now we're not gonna have content for another 2 weeks. Well, I got you covered. So I have a couple more videos coming out pretty soon, hopefully by the end of this week, on 2 other projects that we're currently working on, and I just have to say, be a little patient with me. I want to say thank you so much for everybody who's supporting us and enjoying the content. So don't worry, I got more stuff coming. I'm gonna try to be more consistent with it. I'm having a lot of fun doing this, and I hope that you guys too. So yeah, I'll keep you guys in the loop as stuff goes on. So once again, it's Pablo here. Thank you so much. Adios.